Hello, welcome to my channel and welcome to a book review of Chain Gang All-Stars. Chain Gang All-Stars is a dystopian fiction written by Nana Kwame Adjei Brenyah. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And it takes place in a future America where instead of the current prison system that we have, prisoners can become essentially modern day gladiators and fight each other for their freedom. The story mostly follows Loretta Thurwar, who is the leader of the current chain gang, and it goes through her experiences and a few other people's experiences as she is going through this program. Now, I actually had this book on my radar and it was sent to me, funny enough, from my sister because we decided to do a blind date with the book. So I sent her Yellowface and she sent me Chain Gang All-Stars, which I thought was really funny because I had been wanting to read it anyway, and dystopian fiction is one of my favorite genres of all time, so I'm glad that I actually was able to give this a shot. My overall rating of the book was 4.5 stars. It wasn't the best book that I felt like I have ever read. It wasn't my favorite, I'll say, but it was definitely up there. And the more that I reflect on it, the higher the rating gets and the more I actually enjoy it. But I will say I personally do prefer there to be a little bit more action. I did have a bit of struggle getting into it initially, I think because there were multiple POVs, and like I said, to me it did feel a bit slow in the beginning, but after a while when it started to pick up, I honestly was able to finish it in about 3-ish days. And I had about half of the book left. So once I really got into it and forced myself to sit down and read it, I could not put it back down. I think Nana is an amazing writer. I think every single sentence that he writes felt extremely intentional. I love his style of writing. It feels so poetic to me, and it was just really fun to be able to read something like that. The book also had multiple POVs, which I think this was the first time that I've ever read a story that had multiple POVs, and it was really fun. I will say I think it was a bit hard to keep up because there are so many characters being introduced, but after a while you do get to recognize the core group of people. But there are a lot of people that are introduced throughout the book, and some of them you see them once, some of them you see them twice, some of them you see them all throughout the story. I do like the multiple POVs though, because it does help to show you how many people are actually impacted by this new system. Some of the people that are in this book have helped build this new world, and in the same way, they're still negatively impacted. Now, I'm gonna go over some takeaways that I got from the book, and I might share some spoilers as I'm sharing some of the main takeaways or themes that I noticed. The main takeaway that I got was that empathy is the most important thing. Empathy for all. And you really see that throughout this book the entire time. Now, Chain Gang All-Stars, this book is basically about prisoners who have done horrible things to people, who have done unspeakable things to people. And despite that, I still found it really easy to empathize with these characters and to mourn for the life that they're living. Even though technically they chose this life, they didn't really choose it. They did not choose like the torture and the punishment and the dehumanization that comes with this life. They did not choose that. And I think this book really forces you to acknowledge that no matter who you are or what you have done, your life is still precious and you still deserve empathy, and your life should still be cared for and respected just like everyone else's. No one deserves to experience torture and punishment in the way that these characters are. And this book really does try to drive that home. One really important quote in it is, "Where life is precious, life is precious." I see that as the most important quote because I think that quote just encompasses the entire theme of the book. Every single life is precious no matter who you are. Your existence is still something that is sacred. Another takeaway that I felt like I noticed was the theme of hope, specifically when it comes to activism. He didn't explicitly kind of state this in the book, but there was one quote where a character said, "They cannot stop me, know that they cannot stop you." And that really stuck with me, I think because it made me realize how much of activism is based in hope, but it's not hope that you'll see the change yourself, but it's hope that you'll see the change for future generations. Reforming this will take years and maybe even decades, but they're still constantly showing up. These activists are still showing up and they're doing what they can, and they're protesting and they're marching and they're donating all with the hope that one day, eventually, prisoners won't have to fight each other in order to be freed, won't have to fight each other as their punishment for their crime. But they might never see that in their lifetime. They might not even see that in their children's lifetime, but it's just the hope that they're holding on to, that eventually life will be a little bit better for the future generations than it is for them now. I wasn't expecting that to stand out to me so much, even though it kind of wasn't ever explicitly stated in the book. It also touched on how dangerous our technological advancements can be if we don't rein it in. I'm realizing I think it also commented just on the extent of capitalism, how much that can harm our humanity, which we're already seeing in our modern day. If corporations tried hard enough, they could totally and completely desensitize us to the suffering and trauma of other beings, even when it's right on our screen, because they were framing it in a way where it's like, oh, these are prisoners, so they deserve it. So they don't deserve privacy because they're prisoners. They've done bad things, but you get to just watch it from the safety of your own home, and you get to watch these people earn their right to freedom. You get to watch these people earn their right to be treated as a human being, which is so messed up. One character that really stuck with me was Simon J. Kraft. He did horrible, unspeakable things to people, as did Sunset Harkless. And it's interesting that throughout this story, Sunset Harkless was seen as a man that was respected, a man that was a leader, a man that was kind and was pushing people to work together and to support each other. Simon J. Kraft was someone who, yes, he did those horrible things, but you see how he was tortured in such a way that it essentially drove him mad. It messed with his brain the way that he was tortured, and he essentially turned into a machine that did what he was told until he found someone who connected with him. I see that maybe not as him wanting to show redemption for these characters, but I think wanting to still show their humanity and also the importance of allowing people to change. I just think he did an amazing job at humanizing these prisoners, humanizing these characters, because I also think it's so easy for us to dehumanize prisoners. I think it's very easy for us to see them as not even people, and that's how it's so easy to turn a blind eye to the horrible conditions that are existing in prisons today. And I think that this book helps to remind us that we're all in this life together. We're all humans together. We're all experiencing our one chance at life together. So we should all treat each other with the same respect. And yes, these are prisoners. Like, it's known that these people have done horrible things, and I don't think the book was trying to be a redemption story for that, but I think it was trying to show, even though you have done something horrible, your life is still worthy of respect. When I finished the book, I did go on TikTok and I was looking at some commentary that people made, and a lot of people were saying that they felt like the ending of the book kind of wasn't finished. They felt like it ended on a cliffhanger, and I do understand what they're saying. However, I honestly think that the book ended exactly where it was meant to end. Like, I don't think that there was supposed to be like a kumbaya happy ending and this is like exactly what happens, sort of like in the Hunger Games. And I say that because I'm realizing the Hunger Games and this book, the idea of it is very similar. In the end of the Hunger Games trilogy, Katniss has her ending, you know, where her story ends. I don't think this book was meant to be like that, because I think their story is never going to end. Like I mentioned, like activism and policy reform and prison reform is such a long process that requires so much patience, so much determination, so much hope, so many resources. It requires so much from you that their work is essentially just starting. I think that's kind of just like the way that life is. You don't always get to know a concrete, this is what happens when your story ends. And I think also a part of that is because of how the story ended. To me, when I was reading the book, it kind of felt like we were also watching their lives through Link Life, I think is what the reality show is called. And I think maybe that's why the story ended here, because that's where the story ends for everyone who watches Chain Gang All-Stars. Everyone who's tuning in, once they're freed, they don't really care, I don't think. They only care about these people and their lives when they're seeing them fighting in the whatever arena or area or stage they have set up. They only care about them when they're entertaining them. But when they're not entertaining them anymore, That's it. So I wonder if maybe that's why he ended the book then, because that's when people stopped tuning into her. That's when people stopped paying attention to her, because she's not offering them something anymore. She's not giving them any more entertainment. She's not saying any cool catchphrase. She's not someone that they can idealize and they can kind of worship, and they can falsely say that they love her, even though they're the ones that are encouraging and promoting and enabling her mistreatment and her torture. I understand how people felt that the book ended on a cliffhanger, but I personally wasn't mad at it. Like, it would be great to know what else happened, but honestly, I was not really upset about it. But I do think that this was a great read. I think that it's a book that should be recommended to everyone. It's definitely a more tragic book, but I think that's kind of just the reality of their lives. If they're prisoners and they're gladiators, their story is not going to be happy, because there's only two ways you can be freed in reality. And I think that he did a really great job at taking a topic that is maybe more controversial, especially in a setting that's more controversial. And I did think he did a beautiful job at reminding us, no matter who you are, your life is still precious and your life still deserves to be respected. If there's anyone that you think would benefit from it, I would recommend pushing them to read this book. If anyone who watched made it to this part of the video, please let me know your comments down below. I'd love to discuss it some more, because I would love to just like hear your thoughts and like your takeaways and just how it impacted you, if it did. The next book that I'm going to be reading will be Sunrise on the Reaping. I had to pick it up just like everyone else, so I will be reading that, and I would love to keep doing these book reviews because it was actually really fun to be able to talk about this book and share my thoughts on it. So look out for that, and look out for any other videos. And I also do have a shorter book review that does not have any spoilers on my TikTok, which will be linked down below. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got something useful from it. Please like and subscribe if you'd like to, and thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.